What is up, you guys? It's the Creative Duelist here today, and I actually wanted to present my Dinomist deck profile. Unfortunately, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I've actually gotten Ace of Bats from Team MLB Presents to do a very bad British accent in an attempt to make it sound like he isn't replacing me. Guys, but it's actually Ace of Bats here today. Sorry for the deception. Creative Duelist, he's actually not feeling his best right now, a little under the weather. So we decided to go ahead and give us a ring here in the States, and us here at Team MLB Presents. So that's me, Ace of Bats, and also my partner in crime, Mr. J. He's also out today too. Wanted to go ahead and take over for a day, see if we can help our good buddy out. He's a very avid supporter of our channel and our videos, so we figured we should definitely support our brother quite a bit too. So today I wanted to go ahead and bring you an awesome deck profile, and since we're kind of a pendulum channel, I wanted to do a pendulum deck profile, and what made the most sense to us was something that was a little more creative, a little less meta, and a little bit more fun, because, you know, we're doing this for Creative Duelist, and this is actually, I think, the first deck that he discovered our channel with, that he commented on, was the Dinomist deck profile, and we got some new cards for it. I'm really excited about this. I've been playtesting this on my channel quite a bit, and this is the first time I've gotten to showcase the new deck profile since we got the new cards. So without further ado, let's get into that deck profile. Okay guys, so starting with the monster lineup, we're looking at 3 copies of Dinomist Rex. This is the leader of the bunch, actually. He has a nice little kind of semi-ignister effect if you end up tributing a monster, so he can either attack twice like BLS or do that. He also has the standard 6-scale effect, which protects your Dinomists on the field from being targeted in exchange for destroying this. Keep that in mind. So we got Dinomist Rex over here, as I like to call him, Grimlock. Actually, you'll see that in the Honest deck profile. I'll go ahead and show you that one of these days too. 2 copies of Dinomist Ceratops, or Slag. So when he's in the scale, if a Dinomist card that you control would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, or by battle, then you can actually destroy him instead. So that's a pretty neat little thing, and his effect is kind of like a little cyber dragon. If all monsters that you control are Dinomist monsters and none of them are Ceratops, you can just go ahead and special summon this bad boy over here, so makes for easier Infinity plays for days. 2 copies of Sludge, aka Dinomist Brachion, also a 6 scale, so protects Dinomist from targeting on the field, and as long as you don't control a Dinomist Brachion on the field in your monster zone, and your opponent controls a monster that has the highest attack on the field, no matter what it is really, and then you can just special summon this card from your hand, which is pretty handy. It doesn't necessarily need an empty field. Your opponent just needs to have the one that's got the highest attack. So you can have something like a Plesios on the field that's barely edging it out, and then you can go ahead and put this down over here. So it's pretty handy. 1 copy of Snarl, Dinomist Stegos, has the same 3 effect that Ceratops has in the scale, and then it's also got a little Samurai Cavalry of Raptir effect. If you attack with a pendulum monster into an opponent's monster, then you can actually destroy them both at the end of the damage step there, which is pretty handy. And then 3 of Dinomist Swoop, aka Dinomist Terran. This one's actually kind of the linchpin of the deck, really, because you can search for any Dinomist card as soon as it's destroyed an opponent's monster by battle. Also, keep in mind that it's got a 3 scale, so if you're ever in the scale, you're going to be able to pop this guy to protect your monsters from destruction too. So 2 copies of Dinomist Scorn, or Spinos is his actual name. I just like the Dinobot names, in case you haven't noticed. Also at scale 3, this one actually has a win condition unto itself, because it has 2 effects. You can tribute a Dinomist monster to either attack directly this turn, or make a 2nd attack during each battle phase. Now keep in mind, you can actually tribute 2 Dinomist monsters and activate both effects. And combine that with something silly like limiter removal, for example, or if you can get 2 of them on the board and manage to find a way to tribute 4 monsters, well, you got yourself an OTK right there, so keep that in mind. It's not as far and few between as it seems like it is. I actually did that on a real-life duel the other day, where we actually did a, what was it? I think it was Counter Fairies versus Dinomist, and actually managed to pull that off, so, but just an idea. 2 copies of Dinomist Scorn, or Spinos is his actual name, just like the Dinobot names, in case you haven't noticed. Also at scale 3, this one actually is a win condition unto itself because it has 2 effects. You can tribute a Dinomist monster to either attack directly this turn, or make a second attack during each battle phase. Now keep in mind, you can actually tribute 2 Dinomist monsters and activate both effects. And combine that with something silly like limiter removal, for example, or if you can get 2 of them on the board and manage to find a way to tribute 4 monsters, well, you got yourself an OTK right there, so keep that in mind. It's not as far in few between as it seems like it is. I actually did that on a real-life duel the other day, where we actually did a, what was it? I think it was Counter Fairies versus Dinomist, and I actually managed to pull that off, so, but just an idea. 1 copy of Dinomist Scowl, also known as Dinomist Ankylos, is a 6 scale, and any monsters destroyed by battle with a Dinomist monster just get banished. Last of our Dinomists, 3 copies of Dinomist Paddles, or Plesios. Yes, Paddles is an actual Dinobot name, and Grimlock, Slag, Sludge, Snarl, Swoop, Paddles, Scowl, and Scorn are the 8 Dinobots. It was a 6 scale, protects against targeting, and this one's probably got the best effect of all. All face-up monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense points for every Dinomist card you control. Part about it is these stack too, so if you have 3 of these in your monster zone over here, then it loses everything. So say for example you got 3 of these in the monster zone, 3 Dinomist cards on the back row, 2 in the scale or whatever, that's a grand total of 8 Dinomist cards. That's 2,400 attack points that your opponent's losing. It's amazing. So, something to keep in mind, also a win condition unto itself. For the new stuff, this is actually more of a high-speed build. It's not a demise build like you guys are probably used to. So I've added 3 Ibis Actor Curtain Raiser, just because it actually gets in the links a little bit faster. It's a 7 scale. The scale effect's the most important thing, because when you do scale it, if you control no monsters, you can actually special summon this out of the scale, just like it's the Cyber Dragon, which is pretty awesome. You can only do that once per duel, but it's still a level 4 monster, so it works pretty well with the extra deck and gets you into a couple of cards. The generic rank 4 cards are pretty good. Also, if you don't control any other monsters, it becomes a 2,200 point beater, which is pretty nice. And then most importantly, 2 copies of Astrograph Sorcerer here. So this one's effect, you don't use the scale effect because you don't run the Time Storm Edition. The monster effect is when a pendulum monster is destroyed, you can special summon this bad boy onto the field and then recover another copy of that pendulum monster. Helps out quite a bit, makes some pretty crazy little combos with Electromite. Not quite as explosive as the Magicians are, but you can do some pretty serious damage with Astrograph Sorcerer on the board too, so gonna put that out there for you. On to the spells. We have 3 copies of Dinomist Charge. This is the most powerful spell that Dinomists even have at their disposal. You activate it and it acts like a Fire Formation tanky, so you get to search for any Dinomist monster out of your deck, put it straight into your hand. You can only use it once per turn. It also has a secondary effect that if a Dinomist monster is destroyed for any reason, or if it just, I believe if it leaves the field for any reason and goes to your extra deck, then you can actually flip it back to your hand instead. It's a mandatory effect and it's only going to go off once per turn. One thing I did learn, if you have multiples of these on the field, both of them will trigger at the same time, so just keep that in mind. It's the big searcher of the deck though, on top of Terrans, so it's still mandatory at 3. Running 2 copies of Wavering Eyes. I'll probably cut this for Pendulum Halt once it makes it here to the TCG. In the meantime, this is the next best thing. You can pop 2 scales. You'll probably get 1 back with Dinomist Charge, which is a nice little thing. And you can also search for any Pendulum monster, including Astrograph Sorcerer. 1 copy of Dynamic Power Load, and 1 copy of Terraforming. I used to run both of these in multiples, but every time I drew Dynamic Power Load, I was just like, God, I want this to be a combo piece, and this just isn't a combo piece. It's had its applications, and it's actually pretty handy. Unfortunately, drawing the Terraforming has been problematic, so I've been considering adding a second one back in, but it just seems to feel better at this point. And then for the one-ofs, 1 copy of Instant Fusion. You'll see what that's in there once you get to the extra deck. 1 Dark Hole, because it's Dark Hole, and 1 copy of Limiter Removal. We have machines, it's a win condition unto itself. And moving on to the traps, 3 copies of Dinomist Howling. This is like it's like a Kieran and a Monkey board all rolled into one. So because it's a trap, it's a little slower. It's a continuous trap card too. But when it's activated, the first time it's activated, you can actually add up to 2 Dinomist monsters from your deck straight into your pendulum zones, which is really awesome. Another neat thing that you can do with it, you can tribute a Dinomist monster and then bounce one of your opponent's monsters back from the field to their hand. You can only do that once per turn, but sometimes that's all you need. Just run a normal summon, call it a good rest of the day. 3 copies of Dinomist Rush pulls a free Dinomist out of your deck that's unaffected by trap cards and spell cards and monster effects. Enough said. 2 copies of Quaking Mirror Force really helps out with getting over monsters for things like Terran and using Plesios, Rex, things like that. So it's handy every once in a while and can keep monster effects off the board while you're working on something like a Spino OTK, so helpful enough. And of course we have the Solemn Brigade, 2 strikes and a warning. You could run 3 strikes, you can run 1 of everything, just whatever. These were the extra slots I had left in the deck, and it's been pretty helpful. Okay, so if we're doing the extra deck, we'll go ahead and start off strong. 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, just because Graveyard Power is a thing. Burning Abyss is getting a Link monster pretty soon here, and Light Swarms have also gotten their support too. I've seen Infernoids actually very recently, have a video of that on my channel too, so those are all big decks, and this is a good way to go ahead and deal with it. Another neat thing is most of the monsters in this deck are also water. I mean, I know, water machines, completely insane, right? But that's very synergistic with this because that gives it the 500 attack point boost in addition to being a stun monster, so good little out there. 1 copy of Castel, the Sky Blaster Musketeer, just because it's good removal. Doesn't trigger floaters, which is also pretty nice too. You could easily turn this into a Tornado Dragon if you wanted to. I just despise floaters, so that's why I swear by Castel Steel. Also, it's cheaper and less obnoxious, so. Gear Gigan X, it's a machine searcher. Pretty much everything in the deck is machine. Consistency is king. And then, of course, we have to have our obligatory number monster, number 37, Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark. So in addition to having an awesome name, during battles you can actually detach a material and have all your opponent's monsters lose 1,000 attack points. 1 Bahamut Shark because it's 2 level 4 water monsters, which is 90% of the deck, and gets you into totally awesome over here. And as you know, I hate the name of this card, but I love its effect. So if you want to negate anything, add some extra negates, that's good stuff. So let's talk about Cyber Dragon Nova. So on its own it doesn't do none too much, especially since I didn't put another Cyber Dragon monster in the extra deck. What we do, we just go straight into the Cyber Dragon Infinity, which allows you to suck up monsters and negate a card once per turn. It doesn't always protect you from everything the whole go around, and unfortunately it's a light instead of water, so it doesn't fully fit the theme, but the effect is good enough for it to make it into the deck. 1 copy of Panzer Dragon here, instant fusion target, and it's a level 5 machine monster. It's got the synergy that we need. If we're talking generic links, we have 2 copies of Proxy Dragon just to open up your monster zones and your link zones in case you need to get into more stuff. You'll definitely be using this just to make the Electromite. After you make the Electromite and you make this, that's when you'll be able to get into the Bahamut Shark combos a little easier with the Cyber Dragon Infinity. You play 2 Miststar Boy, definitely. It also increases attack points on all your Dinomist monsters because they're all water, and enables that OTK a little bit easier too. But certainly not least the new boss monster of the deck, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. So what this bad boy does is it requires 2 Pendulum monsters, and when it's summoned it takes any Pendulum monster out of the deck and puts it on top of your extra deck, and then you can destroy a card on your side of the field, if it's a Pendulum card on your side of the field, because when a Pendulum card is removed from your zone, then you actually get to add a monster back from your extra deck to your hand, and once per turn you also get to draw a card too. So the first 2 effects aren't once per turn, those are actually unlimited technically, as long as you can keep summoning these things. The 3rd effect, the draw effect, is a hard once per turn, but that doesn't really matter. And that is it for the deck profile. I wanted to go ahead and thank CD himself again for letting me and Jay take care of this deck profile for him. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our channel, Team MLB Presents, at YouTube. So we will be around. But on that bombshell, unless you need anything else from a CD, Ace of Bats is signing out.